For over a century, the traditional British public park followed a strict set of rules. The aesthetic was built entirely around rigid symmetry, controlled borders, and perfectly manicured, uniform lawns. But achieving that perfectly tidy appearance demands heavy mechanical and chemical intervention. Stripping away natural, uneven ground cover removes the primary habitats and food sources for local pollinators, turning the soil into a biological dead zone. This chart highlights the modern breaking point. As summer temperatures trend upwards, soil moisture drops precipitously. The shallow root systems of those highly controlled, water-dependent Victorian landscapes simply cannot survive the increasingly dry Devon heat. Sidmouth is built directly on top of this 19th century heritage. Its civic identity is intertwined with its historic architecture, towering trees, and traditional churchyards. This creates a challenge. Conservationists must retrofit these historic, heavily trafficked areas for extreme biodiversity, without residents and tourists assuming the town has simply stopped maintaining the grounds. Managing these spaces in a changing climate requires shifting the focus away from human aesthetic control and toward a strategy of active ecological integration. Rather than applying one sweeping policy, the Council operates through a matrix of bespoke micromanagement, applying specialized rules to dozens of distinct microenvironments. Take the historic masonry on the eastern parish churchyard wall. A strict no-clean mandate protects the old lime mortar. This policy preserves a thriving colony of wall rue ferns, a specialized ecosystem first recorded in this exact spot 175 years ago. This cross-section illustrates the three-tier mowing regime: short grass for paths, 10-centimeter midzones for wildflowers, and long seasonal meadows for pollinators. Shifting downward reveals the wax cap protocol, an ancient fungal mycelium network beneath the soil that dictates strict mowing heights and bans chemical fertilizers. These specific protocols for lawns and walls translate into a scientifically calculated network of rules designed to sustain both vertical and subterranean life. Those management protocols change entirely when the terrain shifts. Up on the exposed western cliffs, Connaught Gardens faces aggressive maritime winds and punishing sun exposure. To adapt, management shifted toward xeriscaping. By swapping thirsty traditional bedding plants for deep-rooted, drought-resistant Mediterranean varieties, the gardens drastically cut their water dependency while providing an early-season nectar source for coastal bees. Drop down into the town's western quarter, and the climate flips. Glen Goyle is a steep valley carved by Ice Age meltwater. Its deep, shaded sandstone walls trap humidity, creating a lush microclimate that operates completely differently from the cliffs above. Here, volunteer groups clear away invasive, smothering ivy to save rare Victorian specimen trees like the Chilean lantern. Simultaneously, they install bat boxes and bug hotels, turning the dark gorge into a highly permeable wildlife corridor for small mammals and nocturnal predators. There is no universal template for urban nature recovery. The conservation strategy has to mirror the immediate physical reality of the ground it sits on. The heaviest friction happens where natural landscapes collide with centuries of rigid human engineering, structures built specifically to control water flow and prevent erosion. At Jacob's Ladder, this cross-section shows deep-rooted halophytes naturally binding the cliff edges, replacing shallow, manicured grass. Panning down to the lower Sid riverbed, gravel banks now intentionally slow the fast water channel, unwinding centuries of rigid engineering to let delicate aquatic plants root. Restoring an ecosystem frequently requires actively dismantling the exact structural safeguards that previous generations spent decades building. The result of this hyper-local strategy is a public landscape that functions as a deeply documented biological haven, growing right alongside heavy pedestrian traffic. This map tracks the immediate results. Through citizen science projects, the town has documented 60 distinct wildflower species within the churchyard alone, while pipistrelle bats are actively using the crevices of mature trees for roosting. The volunteer groups driving this restoration operate under a single defining philosophy: public land should be balanced, not manicured. Achieving that balance requires intense observation. It means cataloging individual tree health, mapping ancient soil fungi, and intentionally calibrating mower blades to the millimeter. The next time you walk past a patch of tall grass or a moss-covered wall, you're looking at a deliberate, life-sustaining refuge integrated into the center of the town.